Okay. Hello, folks. This is Michael Vizzi from Amazing FBA. Today, I'm going to take you on a bit of a different journey. So I'm in City Road in Cardiff. If you know London, which I don't expect you to do, but if you do, it's equivalent to sort of Kilburn. It's a sort of bit of an inner city area. But I'm just walking along. Actually, was looking for a reasonably cheap furniture shop to help furnish a house that I rent out because some of the furniture is falling apart. But actually, it struck me that this is an interesting area to think about buying small businesses. Now, this is not in the e-commerce acquisition space that I'm talking today, but taking a broader view than usual. If you're going to acquire a business, obviously, there are multiple different types of businesses. And one of the things that always strikes me is that physical retail is struggling a bit. Physical services of other kinds and experience-based things are not dead yet. So what I'm seeing quite a few places along here is quite a Turkish area by the looks of it. I don't know it very well. I used to walk along here years ago when I was a student here. But there's a lot of Turkish restaurants now, quite a few different ones, probably not owned by the same family. And so there is an option, I guess, to potentially consider something like buying up lots of different Turkish businesses and rolling them all up into one restaurant chain in Cardiff. Now, of course, to do that, you'd need to check, what's the demand? How busy are they? And then you've got to think about the sector. Restaurants are famously very risky, so they're prone to sort of ups and downs and the taste of consumers. Sorry, I'm not trying to hide my mouth. It's just a bit windy here. It's a terrible hair, sorry. So I'd be cautious about that. The other thing I think about is the business model, which is how good is that going to be? How robust is that? How hard is it to get staff? Well, it's famously quite hard to get staff in the hospitality industry. So I might forget that. Here's another one. The All-Star Car Wash. Let's go and look at that and have a think about this. Now, one of the things you want to think about is, for me, just very robust. Is there a robust demand compared to supply? Do people get their cars washed? Yes, they do. It's a Sunday afternoon. It seems quite busy. Now, pros. Most people have a car. So there's a potentially big market. What percentage of them get it washed? Don't know. I've no stats on that. See, I'm not going to buy any of these things necessarily. This is a way of thinking that I'm trying to get my brain to see things that way, and I hope you find it interesting as well. I don't know whether that's robust in a recession, because if I were short of money, I probably wouldn't prioritize washing my car. Having said that, many other people are more car proud than me, equivalent word is. So not sure about that. There seem to be some police officers out there, so it might be a place I'd want to avoid. Crossing the road again. Barber shop, of course. What I like about barbers, always tempts me, obviously was under COVID, a bad thing. We'll talk about that in a second. Barbershop though is that everyone has hair like me, and it grows, and not everyone has hair. If you have hair, then it will grow. So there's a guaranteed need for a barber. Being a bloke and not, as you can tell, too fashion conscious, image conscious, I'm sure I should be, since I'm online all the time, but I go to barbers, I don't go to fancy hairdressers. So, okay, the demand side is robust, right? So if you have a car, do you have to wash it? No. If you have hair, do you have to cut it? Yeah. Okay. Now, of course, the supply side is an interesting one, because under COVID, under the lockdown, barbers in the UK anyway were seen as essential occupations, so they're allowed to stay open. And so a lot of people who were struggling to know what to do for work or for a small business open barbershops. So the demand supply is probably out of balance at the moment. But nevertheless, it depends on area by area. So in Bristol, I went to see some guy, and I couldn't help noticing in the area that I was in, area called St Andrews, sort of near the centre of Bristol on the A38, if you happen to know. There were a ton of barbershops, and I mentioned this to the barber in there, and he said, oh yeah, everyone's gone into business doing that. So you do go through these waves where you get too much supply. But having said that, I'm looking crazy here. There's another one here, Babylon Barbers. I would need to educate myself about the market in general, what the sticking points are with barbers and what the business model's like. But I wouldn't be averse to, creating a superior brand and experience, and having brought the barbers up, having, to integrate them into a bigger business. And I'm not sure who you'd sell them on to. I suppose people might be buying barbershops. I don't know. I noticed there's also quite a lot of Turkish influence here. That seems to apply to the barbers as well. So I suppose that might mean that you could either dig into that or try to escape from it. You could dig into it and as it were, another barbers. Certainly plenty of them around. So maybe supply and demand isn't great. That looks like another Turkish one potentially. So you can either sort of brand it as a Turkish experience and make a big thing of that, you know, the hoopy candles or whatever. You have those things where you put the candles near to the ears to burn out the earwax and stuff. Or you can try and appeal to the Turkish community locally, which is obviously reasonably numerous. How tight-fisted versus generous with their spending they are on barbering, I don't know. Anyway, so that's another one. Furnishing shop. That's the sort of thing I'd avoid like the plague, really. I mean, the reason that I'm looking for that, I was actually one of the shops I was looking for, but it is shut at the moment. That's physical retail. That's a tough thing right now because you've got the twin issues hitting you of lower discretionary consumer spending for any kind of retail at all. So if people don't have to buy furniture, they won't, or they'll buy cheaper stuff, or they'll repair their old stuff. So that doesn't feel like it chimes in with the economic times. And then, of course, e-commerce has taken a chunk out the high street in the UK. I think e-commerce as a percentage of retail is going to grow at a much slower rate in the UK over the next few years, personally, just because it grew so crazy during the pandemic. I think it's around, 33% is the last stat I read, as a percentage of retail. That is e-commerce in Britain as a percentage of retail, which feels intuitively about right to me. So I've seen stats saying it's not going to grow at all, or that it's going to grow 7% year on year. Again, that feels about the right ballpark, 7%. So avoiding that. German doner kebab. You see, this is one of those restaurants that I probably wouldn't personally want to go to, but that might work, which is you kind of form a chain out of something that is exotic for somebody who's never been outside their front door. I mean, doner kebab is pretty goddamn standard food in Britain, as in Germany. I've lived in Germany, so I wouldn't have that. Classic fried chicken, there's no differentiation. Again, Lebanese cuisine. There's quite a few Lebanese restaurants near me in London, actually. So again, could you do a roll-up of that? Maybe. I don't know what the economics are. I suspect the economics of a Lebanese restaurant or Indian restaurant or Turkish restaurant owned by somebody from one of those ethnicities is that you get all your family members to work for near starvation wages, and you do 12-hour days, and you probably couldn't employ people very easily to replicate that. I don't know. I may be guessing, but I think restaurants would be dodgy for me. What else we got along here that's of interest? Bakery. Well, it's again a COVID-proof thing that went crazy in Hampstead, where I used to live. About 6 bakeries opened up over lockdown. They were ever more shishi and unnecessarily expensive. I mean, I suspect that that's probably happening in a lot of places. So I'm not sure about the bakery thing, but at least it's a consumption, right? People come in, and if they like it, they'll keep coming back. I have no idea about the economics of it. I suspect that's pretty tough. And then property services. See, that quite interests me. Let's look at this. I will probably avoid naming the actual people who used to manage my property, because I just fired them for not doing a very good job. They haven't kept an eye on the quality of the property above all, and also who was living in it. It got a bit out of control. So, remote management is always a reminder that, as they say, absentee landlords never prosper is the phrase that I know, and there is something in that. Anyway, so I won't reveal that particular agency, but property agencies, this is a student area. Cardiff is a university city, and like Bristol or London or many places, there are lots of places which will specialize in letting to students in general, or to young professionals generally. And again, there's a lot of competition, but there's strong demand, so you'd have to differentiate yourself. But most of the ones here look quite kind of shabby and low rent, and so I think there is a room for a roll-up that would grab all those ones, replace them with better branding. I guess that you might have some kind of monopolies and mergers equivalent at a local level if you took over like all of the ones in this particular area. And I know that a lot of letting agencies tend to. Let's have a look at the amount that people pay here. Yeah, it looks like what I'd expect. So Don't know. I mean, there's strong demand, which is important, but there's a lot of competition, which isn't great. And then, is there a need for a more dominant brand? I feel there is. I feel like the branding is a bit shoddy and low rent looking. And since rents literally have gone up by about 30 to 40% year on year in some cases in this city, and like many places, including the area that we live in London, West Hampstead, there is an argument that says, you're going to be charging a lot more money. There is more money in the system now, and you could possibly afford to charge landlords instead of, the traditional amount of management fee, which is 10% of the rent plus VAT, which is about what you pay in Cardiff, that you could start charging them what you would charge them in London in the pricier areas, which is maybe 12% plus VAT. So, maybe. So look, there's nothing here that really excites me that much as a business to acquire. And besides which, I would have to go into any of the areas that I mentioned. I would have to get either a business partner, probably a minority equity holder, if they were going to help me shop for it. If I were going to do that, by the way, as a shop for, look for a business, buy a business, not shop for goods. If I were going to do that, I would probably pick the person that I wanted to manage the business or individual businesses, and have them along as a consultant. Or I would pay somebody consultant fee and then just get somebody, hire somebody from within the business. And it could be one or the other, depending on what we find. But something like that, I would need some expert input. And so the point is not that I'm going to do it, but that I am trying to look through a particular lens and think about, supply and demand, which all marketers think about, but then think about supply and demand in the broader sense of supply and competition. And then the overall, what comes on top of that is the overall business model. How does it work? How do you make profit? What are the risks? What are the potential upsides? And it does make you look at business in a different way, which I think is very healthy as a business owner and operator. So anyway, some random thoughts from Cardiff. Hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to sign off and go back and deal with the house that I'm actually supposed to be